Ooh, what's up, PWT listeners? Welcome to another eclectic edition of PWT Pro Wrestle Times podcast. Yeah. I am here with at Icarus Fell MD. You see there, better known as Evil Dose in this community. A round of applause for Evil Dose.
Thank you. So unnecessary.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm all right. And for those of you who want to follow me as Evil Dose, it's Evil Dose at Garden of Doom, which is the name of my non-wrestling podcast. So I have two Twitter accounts, as probably most of you have. Neither is a burner, but I mean, they're both active. I'm probably more wrestling active on the Evil Dose at Garden of Doom.
That's awesome. Make sure you go give Dose a follow there, and you can also find him Tuesday nights on Toni Talk Wrestling. For the most, you're a regular on the show, most definitely, and one of the foundations. And so, guys, yeah, I'm at Pro Wrestle Clips at Pro Wrestle Times. You guys already know we got a lot to get to, so we're just gonna dive right into the action this week. So you caught a lot of heat for basically recently this past week or whatever for just coming out and giving your prediction, and you have somewhat of an insider, so you're giving your insight on the AEW TV deal, which myself and Awful Wrestling on the live show went to bat for you, and we broke it all down, and the clip of it actually drops tomorrow, guys, at Pro Wrestle Clips on YouTube there, but or actually probably the same day as this airs. So time cop, as Tony Khan would say, time cop. But either way, so we went to bat for you, and we were like, dude, Zarian got in the mix, Thurston got in the mix, and I think Brandon Thurston was more siding with you, like the way he was just sort of shooting it straight down the line. Now, I went out and said, you've never trashed Zarian or trashed anybody else. You just give your opinion, and then people are fucking hating on you because of your sources, or because you're interpreted as anti-AEW, or because you're less known than Andrew Zarian. What's your perspective on all of that? And I want you to just quickly, in your thoughts, last minute prediction, what do you think happens with AEW? Tell us what you think will happen with the TV deal.
I mean, it's all of the above, and it's correct. I've never trashed Andrew Zarian, though I did give him grief about one thing, and that is the Max thing. And there might have been something else, but mostly, you know, there was a day where he said he was having a really hard day, and I texted him the DM and said, "You're all right, dude. You're a good guy. You're a good guy." And Andrew Zarian is a good guy. He's extremely positive, and he's a sales guy, and he gets information from salespeople involved with these shows. So they're told to sell things, but not everything they're told to sell materializes. That's the world of sales. Anyone who's in sales knows that they'll sell this, sell that, and then this, that, and the other thing doesn't happen, or the time slot changes. But, you know, he also got some things famously wrong. He got TV 14 wrong. You know, and there were other things. He got Collision right. He's the only one that got Collision right. Mm-hmm. And I was scoffing at Collision for the same business reasons that I didn't believe in anything else. He got Mercedes Moné right. All right, that's 50-50. I got Mercedes Moné wrong. I was just guessing. He said he had insider information. I believe him.
Yeah, me too.
Now, but he's also been saying that Ring of Honor was going to go to Max. He also said AEW had already signed with Max. They just, or the documents were already done. They just haven't signed. So I don't want to make this about me and Zarian. And I mean, the one thing we both agreed on, and we both had in our sources, and I guess there's a date as to the chronology. See, I listen to Andrew Zarian on Sundays when it's free. I used to listen to Matt Men, but a few months ago they put it behind the paywall. So I don't hear him routinely. I like Matt Men. So I don't know if he reported it early or not, but we both reported that Tony Khan was using third parties to do his negotiations. He says there's nothing wrong with that. It happens all the time. Well, with all due respect, it doesn't happen all the time after this much time unless something's going wrong. I mean, anybody who's ever watched a cop show with a hostage negotiation knows when they change the negotiator, that's not a good sign. They think something's gone wrong. These negotiations have been going on for over 2 years, off and on. I mean, there was a deferral because of the 1 year extension. I think Brandon Thurston plays it down the line, but he's still extremely optimistic about how much money they're going to get. I think he's unrealistic about that. And he also starts from a place. Him and Dave Meltzer have told the world that AEW is right now getting $70 to $75 million a year. And I can tell you where they got the money from. We know that AEW started with like $33 million, and they got like a $12 million raise when Rampage was added and Battle of the Belts was going to be brought on. And Rampage, it took 10 months to develop, but also WBD was no longer covering production costs, and they would get an escalator. It was going to go up to something $45-46 million. So, and then they picked up the option with an increase. Everyone's saying it was a huge increase. I say it's the same type of percentage increase for the other years, and you can reverse engineer the math from 33 to 46, and figure out that it's probably around 5, 6, 7% a year. So let's give it the top dollar. Let's give it 7%, and that gets you to around 50 million or so. How did Thurston come up with the number? Well, Rampage plus Dynamite is 3 hours. Collision is 2 hours. That's 5 hours. 3/5, 60%. 2/5 is 40%. He simply took 40% of $50 million, put $20 million there, and got between $70 and $75 million, because that's how TV works. Because the Saturday 2 hours merit the same money as the Wednesday Dynamite hours, which they don't. And we know that from Rampage.
Yeah.
Rampage got $11 million. So I mean, so we know that it's not it's not the same. So anyway, I don't want to be at war with anyone, and I don't know why these particular tweets got such attention, because tweeting similar things for a long time. I know Thurston, I think, just muted me a long time ago because.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
he kind of. I just wanted to say too, like what he said when he brought up the 250 million. Thurston was like, he was more or less saying, "Yo, that's a high end if you factor in all of these things that really aren't really being factored in or discussed, but probably are behind the scenes." So, and we're talking high end for all of that 250 mil. I felt like he was more agreeing with you, like me and Awful. It popped us because when we read his tweet, like under your tweets that Zarian was also in, Thurston, there was parts where he just said exactly what you said, but just in more words, and fucking people aren't mad at him. So, and that's the thing.
The dollars are different. I mean, the dollars are very different. And also he includes Max. And listen, it's a negotiation.
Max, Tony Khan, not to interrupt you, but during the press conference, which we'll get to, he basically stooged that that's not a thing. Tony Khan basically stooged that there's no fucking Max deal. That's not a thing. So, yeah. So again, you were right in that regard, and I just wanted to say though, like, yeah, it's not ugly between you and Zarian and Thurston and all of that. It's more or less like the fan base comes in and makes it ugly, like, or the IWC.
I actually wish Thurston would use me as a resource to give him, because he's so one-sided. And I also talk about, like, even on the Vince suit, however disgusting and depraved it is, all of his insight is basically assuming everything is absolutely 100% the gospel. And that's never the way it is in litigation. Lawsuits are not. The lawsuit that her lawyer filed is so unusual. It was obviously a shock and awe kind of thing to try to, bombast them to get them into a quick settlement. And that didn't happen because this isn't Vince's first rodeo. TKO is like, we're not part of this. WWE doesn't exist anymore in that entity. And, and even in the complaint itself, there's years and years of text back and forth and all this other stuff. So, I mean, I don't want to sound like Andrew Tate, but there are triable issues here. Anyway, I don't want to, but anyway, I just wanted to give, like months ago, I said, this is probably going to be dismissed to be sent to arbitration, not on the merits, but because there's an arbitration clause. And I know that because Stephen P. New lost it, to my chagrin, here in Maryland and the federal court of Maryland, when he represented Kelly Klein and Joey Mercury against Ring of Honor and Sinclair. And I very much wanted him to win that case because I wanted all the discovery material, because he was sharing everything with me. So I have a whole bunch of Ring of Honor contracts, and stuff like that. So I love when cases go forward because I want the discovery. I want to find out what an AEW contract is, what a TNA contract is now. I mean, I've had TNA and Impact contracts from the past. I have a old WWE contract, but I'd like to see all that stuff. I want to see the MLW. Anyway, I'm getting really off track, but I don't know why this one took off and it got a lot of. It's just the
IWC. They're so sensitive and they're so fucking triggered. But here, just to tie it up in a bow, your final predictions. Where do you think True TV's been on the table, Max, all this sort of stuff? And I'm going to play you Tony Khan's stuff later from the press conference, which might change your mind a little bit on your stance. Not that he gets too deep into it, but he is directly asked about it. But just as you sit right now, Evil Dose, where does AEW wind up? You don't have to get into like numbers of money, but you can if you want. But just where do they end up, and what is their approach going forward? Streaming, cable, a mix of both. Everyone's talking about the third hour, but I thought 3 hours was too shitty, and all the AEW fans are going, "Oh, a third hour!" But I thought the third hour on Raw fucking made the show suck to you guys. So which is it? Now you want a third hour of Dynamite? So do you think there's a third hour? Do you think they go to True TV? What is just your last and final sort of prediction as we head into the end of April and May, and where everyone's saying it's crunch time?
Ring of Honor's left that on the out the door. There is going to be no Max. Max is not interested. I think that Rampage and Collision are probably going to be gone. If anything, they would be relegated to some secondary or tertiary network at all for nominal amounts of money. I mean, I believe that Collision is either getting a nominal amount of money that is too embarrassing for Tony to say, maybe just an equivalent of the escalator money, or that he's paying for the time. And I know that people think I'm crazy. Oh, that's where Andrew Zarian told me that I was in Bizarro World. But answer me this. What TV show that you know that is paid by a network for 52 weeks out of a year just simply doesn't air 3 weeks out of the year so far within the last 4 months, hasn't aired 3 times, not preempted, not moved to a different time, not a different date, not a different network, not put after Rampage or before Rampage, just simply not aired at all, to the point where Tony Khan didn't even book an arena to have a show to tape.
People argue, oh, but it's like sports though, so subject to change and stuff. But it's really not. It's a TV show, you know? Sorry, you go ahead.
Well, the thing about wrestling is that's 52 years a week, and typically live, not always, but if they paid for, like, so unless you can find me a contract that says they paid for 44 weeks out of the year and this was part of the plan, which is possible, it's entirely possible, but I think it's more likely he paid for the time, or he just got a very nominal amount and there's a more generous ad split. Anyway, that's on board. You asked me where I think it's going to be.
Right.
With the last information I got, frankly, I think Warner Brothers Discovery walks. I'd say there's a 40% chance that Tony Khan buys a FCC signal and buys like whatever El Rey or Spike is now, which is probably nothing, and just gets that and goes, and airs it on, claims victory and says that was his plan all along, and uses Honor Club either as his plan B for streaming and pay-per-views, or just ends it all and just puts it all on his network. I think there's a 40% chance that it stays on Turner and they keep Dynamite. Whether or not they add Rampage or Collision as a third hour, or it's just considered third hour Dynamite, I don't know. I don't care about that. I mean, whatever it is. And I think that the offer on the table is $90 million for 5 years, but I can tell you that every day that goes by, especially when the exclusion period ends, that gets less, because last year there were no other bidders. There just weren't. AEW was told by Warner Brothers legal team to not air the footage from the UK, or that it could cause legal problems, privacy laws, and they didn't want to see it. And AEW did it anyway, which made them angry to furious, depending on who you're listening to. Now, I will say, my source, she's gone dry. Like, she hasn't told me anything since Friday. So, I don't know that my source that connected us said I could use her name, and maybe she didn't really want her name to be used. And maybe she got Twitter tagged a couple times. She didn't respond to anybody, but maybe she's like, I don't.
The IWC is lunacy, bro.
Yeah.
It's complete lunacy. I also heard, I actually heard this on another podcast. Who said it? Billy Body at the Dirty Sheets. People fucking hate his guts. Whatever you think about him aside, I'm just going based off what he said on his show. And he's been right about a lot of things that are pretty extreme. So he said that actually Tony sent like a letter. He was so mad about like all the Punk shit at WrestleMania and everything. And you know how WWE was showing like Daniel Bryan's yes moment at WrestleMania, and they weren't shying away. They were saying his name. And apparently Tony sent some sort of like letter or contact to WWE, or lawyers did, about like, hey, stop showing current contracted AEW talent on your TV and mentioning them and stuff like that, which I don't know if that's true at all, but just to sort of add to what you were saying, I feel as though this was a real, showing that footage was a shoot themselves in the foot moment, big time on levels that we don't even realize on the surface level, unless Jack Perry goes on and becomes the next John Cena. That's the only fucking way this worked.
And he's not. He's at the end of the day.
The rating slump. The go home show sucked. We're about to watch Dynamite tomorrow. AEW and check me out, Pro Wrestle Games. I'll be gaming out and doing a watch along of Dynamite. Dose, if you're free, you can fucking join in anytime. But apparently Dynamite, or not apparently, like infamously, pardon me, they have the shittiest after pay-per-view shows as well. Like all their top guys aren't there and stuff like that typically. So, and then they're just building up Moxley. Like he just won the New Japan title and they're like giving him this big fucking homecoming. And they wonder why people are questioning their TV deal. What's your product? Is it fucking Ring of Honor? Is it New Japan? Is it AEW? What's your product, man? Like what's going on? And I argue that, and I've said it a million times, the listeners are probably going to be like, Phil, shut the fuck up. But I'm going to say it here for Dose. You know, AEW is not a pro wrestling company. They're like, they are as far as like what they do, like they're put together matches and put them on TV, but they don't run house shows. They don't have training facilities. They don't have anything like that. They're not investing into like the future of wrestling. All they're doing is like signing up talent. Like Tony's trying to monopolize talent and shit, like the same way WWE used to. He's become like a mini Vince. I'm calling him Tony McMahon from now on because he even appeared on camera. He's becoming a fucking heel. He appeared on camera with the Bucks, who are the heels, and he's like, yeah, let's go, let's get it. And you know, and he's like in gorilla with them or whatever. And it's just like he's working himself into being an on-screen heel, and we saw him copy the camera angle where he walks down the ramp at Dynasty or on Dynamite. It was on Dynamite, yeah. He walked down the ramp with the camera and did like the shot WWE's doing, and I talked about it on the last show. He could be the one innovating this shit, but instead of doing that, he's just following suit, and he's behind on everything. And now he's becoming a little villain character. And ultimately, though, what AEW is it's a fucking TV show. It's not a pro wrestling. They're not investing in the future of pro wrestling. It's just a show that airs, 4 times a fucking month. Like, other than that, there's no house shows. There's no developing young talent. So I don't know. To me, it's just they're just filming shitloads of TV, and Tony is like 10 years behind on this. Like, oh, have as much content as possible so you can just sell it to all these like Netflix. Like, remember when everyone, when it was the pandemic, everyone was just buying every content, every piece of content there was. People were just shilling dollars. It's like he's like 5 years behind, and he's like stuck in that approach. Like, oh, if I just keep filming Ring of Honor with 300 people here, I'll sell it to net. Like, what does he think? I just have no idea what he's even thinking. And that's why the TV deal gets questioned and all of that. No, we're not experts. Dose looks into this shit way more than me. Maybe he is an expert. I'm fucking not. But just like my friend Dose, I like to fucking dig into this. I like to just get into it. I'm not trying to break news. I'm not trying to be the one like, oh, my first real headline, I got it. I'm broke through into the news. I'm not trying to do that. I just enjoy the shit. I'm a sycophant, if you will, over professional wrestling. You know what I mean? I fucking just dive in. Yeah. Sorry. What are you trying to say there, Dose?
Well, you said a lot, and I'm not sure that I agree necessarily with all of it, but the things I disagree with are not important enough to take up time, really.
Yeah,
as far as Tony Khan, I mean, I don't think that I think anything that different than anyone else. I think he's, he's a beneficiary of the Lucky Sperm Club. I don't think that he's ever had the words no said to him. I think that he's in a lot of ways sort of a child savant. So he's got a brain for certain things like numbers and stats. Like, there was always the kid in 3rd grade who knew the stats of every baseball card of every player. I think that's Tony, but he ignores the stats he doesn't want to see. It's like, no, I can't hear what Jeffrey is saying. Because he doesn't see the drops. He doesn't see every time, the Orange Cassidy is not in the Big Bang Theory slot, that 200,000 people tune out or 110,000 people. He doesn't see that every time the Bucks come on the TV, no matter who they're with, everything goes down. He doesn't see that nobody's interested in basically Ring of Honor 2009 through 2015. And by the way, folks, I know that when I say nobody, that doesn't mean nobody.
We're talking in generalities here. And I've said exactly what you said. If people were going to start watching Ring of Honor, Tony Khan, 1 million people were going to start, they'd have done it already.
Right.
But they're not interested, so just focus on AEW. Right. That's the problem with
the things
AEW.
We don't hear about from like WrestleNomics, like Nomics things they could cover. How many Honor Club subscribers are there? How many people are watching NWA on the CW app? What are MLW's pay-per-view buys? What are NWA's pay-per-view buys? How many people buy New Japan World subscriptions. I mean, it's not just about AEW. They don't cover anything except WWE numbers, and whatever number Tony gives them about pay-per-views, they
Right.
report as if it's gospel. And probably 3/4 of those tend to be inflated by 20% when they finally get reported like 10 months down the line. Now, some of them
When no
stay.
one even knows. Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody believes it because I mean, there's still people who are telling me they signed a $1 billion contract a year ago for 5 years. There are people who still tell me that all of AEW's wrestlers are employees and get health insurance. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
when
Wow.
when AEW started, I mean, I was really excited about it. Then I saw how they populated, and I wasn't so excited. Then they added some wrestlers that I liked, and I was like, okay, this can be cool and whatever. We'll see. We'll give it a chance. And then there
Right.
was like just this march of 1,000 lies, both big and small. And some of them I attributed to growing pains or not knowing any better, like the union thing and the employees thing. Cody said, no, we can't do that. He had to walk it back. And then the Buck said something else, and Cody had to walk it back. And there's just been, we're not going to hire every WWE person. Well, I mean, their roster
Fuck,
was
that's all
like
there. Yeah.
120. I mean, they still have Cole Carter on there who's swimming with the fit. I mean, it's ridiculous. Tony Nese and God knows how many people he's hiding under Ring of Honor contracts as far as money is concerned.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right about that. And so speaking of it, AEW Dynasty went down this past weekend. I actually tapped in and I was watching it with Awful Wrestling, AEW Full Wrestling. He was on the live stream
Sure.
a couple shows back, last live stream, I think, and he's also frequents Toonie Talk. And yeah, and your other show too is the Hammerlock Headlines, correct?
Hammerlock Hangover is my wrestling podcast.
Hangover, pardon me. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, and so make sure you go check that out and you go subscribe to that as well, and you tune in if you like what Dose has to say, man. I find it so compelling. But yeah, so Dynasty went down, and you guys know how I do my reviews. I'm not going to dive totally uberly deep into it, but I watched the whole pre-show, and I was in Awful Wrestling's Twitter space, in his Twitter spaces or whatever, and I was just kind of shooting the shit, and him and I watched Rebellion on the weekend as well. Like, he threw TNA Rebellion on that live stream. So with TNA, what are your thoughts on TNA lately before we get into Dynasty here? Like, does any of it compel you? Are you interested in any, like, people are saying, oh, what if AEW goes to Access? But like fucking Anthem owns Access. They probably consider AEW competition. You know what I mean? What do you think about TNA?
Well, little covered story is New Japan Pro Wrestling runs on Access TV at Thursday nights at 10 o'clock, right after TNA. Except they just moved it. And when did Access move it to? Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock. So New Japan is now technically competing with AEW Dynamite, which I'm sure is not a good idea. What do I think of TNA? Listen, when everybody got excited that they were changing the name back to TNA and they were doing new belts and every year they say they're getting a bigger budget, I call bullshit on it then. Everyone said I was a hater, just like they say about AEW, and it's turned out to be bullshit. Their viewership is the same. Last number I got was February 4th, I think. They barely even published the numbers, and it was 88,000. That was an improvement from the prior week, which was like 72,000, 74. So they basically typically do not get six figures in viewership. Their demo is somewhere between 0.01 and 0.02. And they're using mostly appearance talent. They just announced that they're going to stop doing long-term contracts and do more appearance talent. So you have Dolph Ziggler coming in for a few months. You have, Matt Hardy coming in. He said he's still a free agent, so he's basically giving away that he's not going to be the champion. Good. No one expects him to beat Moose, and he shouldn't. But still, TNA is still LOL TNA. They're a cockroach. They're owned by Anthem, which owns Access also. They're not going anywhere else. Everyone wants Scott D'Amore back. Scott D'Amore was pushed out because apparently he was trying to buy it from the company. If the company doesn't want to sell, they sort of get annoyed with their employee constantly trying to buy it from them. So Scott D'Amore's gone, who is very creative. And then people tried to bury him, like saying he did all sorts of horrible things, just like they're doing with Rossy Osagwa. And by the way, I don't know the truth or fiction about any of it, just like I don't know the truth or fiction about Vince McMahon.
It sort of came out that Stardom, like Stardom does that regardless. Like they even right now, someone pulled up a flyer and Stardom's recruiting at an elementary school or whatever, recruiting kids. And so they were like, okay, Kenny's being spicy here and a little salacious with these sort of accusations or innuendo, as they call it. But ultimately, like, it's just people have sort of determined, well, that's just the culture in Japan. So, like, we don't agree with it, but fucking maybe Kenny was being a little too spicy. But sorry, you go ahead with.
No, I think that's a really good point, and I think that's true. And I think that we try to impose our 21st century values on other countries, and we pretend like we have this set of values. I mean, one of the issues with this country is we don't have a set of values that we agree upon. The culture war is all about that we don't agree on a set of values anymore. There's not even and maybe there are, but nobody's talking about those. Anyway, this is not a politics show, but
right.
But I didn't think it was anything new that girls started training at, Kenny Omega wrestled a 9-year-old. Who was he to be calling people out? But it's the same thing happens in Mexico. The luchador starts. Isn't Billy Stark somebody who was signed before she was 18? I mean, and her mother traveled with her everywhere. Nick Wayne, the same thing. I mean, Negative Ones are under a contract allegedly, and everyone ballyhoos that. So I don't know. I don't know what. Listen, Japanese is a very different culture. You can joke about it being fetish and anime and all that, but it's not America. We shouldn't judge it by American standards. And I think first maybe we should look in the mirror about whether we get to judge anybody.
Hey man, you're just calling it like it is. So that's what we appreciate here at PWT, man. So yeah, AEW Dynasty. It took place. They had a good building because it was like 6,000 people, and it was actually pretty full, which is good. They ran a smaller building, so that was aesthetically, it was nice. They used just like their normal Dynamite stage with some, which is cool. They're saving money. They're doing their thing.
Cutting costs around the hedges. They're just trimming around the hedges.
Yeah, exactly. And because I don't think it's a coincidence that also like TV deal time it's crunch time. You know what I mean? Like according to everyone, like it's coming down to it, and it's not a shock that they're cutting costs. And
I don't want to keep going. I told people so, but two of the things that Warner Brothers Discovery wanted is they wanted ownership, and they wanted partial ownership, and for Tony to hire writers for creative control, and he said no to that. And they also wanted Tony to show that he could control the expenses and not just hide it under Ring of Honor. In other words, I know wrestling fans say Tony Khan is a billionaire and his father is a gigantic billionaire. That's true. But first of all, his father's not part of this. Second of all, the network knows that Tony Khan's a billionaire. That doesn't matter because they don't have a deal with Tony Khan. They have a deal with AEW Acquisitions LLC. Or Acquisitions Company LLC. And AEW Acquisitions Company LLC has no assets and can fold anytime. So they want to know that AEW Acquisitions LLC is profitable in its own right, because one thing they know about rich people, because they are rich people, is that rich people don't like losing money.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you hit the nail on the head, man. And so I would say this, as far as like an attendance, and I don't know what the pay-per-view buys are. They're going to say 100,000 buys or whatever. That's the number they go with, which is, I don't know. I trust Dave Meltzer. It's weird because in the MMA world, Dave Meltzer's like, they go, oh, he's reputable. He's actually a very reputable source in these things. And it's because he does have his connections in like the pay-per-view buy and the ticket sale world and stuff like that. But that's his only connect. Like, that's why he's been exposed, because he can't flex that aspect of it for AEW. And because he can't, whereas at the beginning he could, now he's slowly being exposed as well, because it's just Tony telling him shit and WWE doesn't tell him shit. And before he could get away with like him guessing on the WWE creative shit while then reporting like real numbers and real ticket sales and then you'd go, oh, but look, he's right about all this. So I would love to just spend an hour breaking that down, because I just love shooting on Dave. But yeah, anyways, this is hopefully there was like 100,000 buys for the, I'm not rooting for AEW to fail. The IWC has to be realistic about them, especially if we're going to flex numbers and who's the best wrestlers and all this type of shit. We have to start being objective about these things. And
Yeah, I
And
don't
this
care
card
if
is the
people like what they like, and they don't have to
right.
like what I like, and I don't have to like what they like, and I bet that we like a lot of the same things. I just listen. I love the movie Moonfall. It's horrible. It's a terrible movie, but it was perfect for me because it's exactly what I wanted. And I know it's horrible. I like Wyatt Earp more than I like Tombstone. Nobody talks about Wyatt Earp. People love
No, yeah.
Tombstone. I know that. I know that I'm in the minority, and I don't scream at people saying Wyatt Earp is so much better. You're crazy, and Wyatt Earp made so much more money than two. No, it didn't. It just didn't. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I just want people like it's the IWC. So when you say you don't want it to fail, I don't, but I kind of feel like it has to put people in their place, get them realistic, and then I would like it to resurrect like the Phoenix and
Yes,
be managed properly.
that's what I foresee in the future. Honestly, I sit here and I go, WCW was in the shits before Bischoff got it. Like we talk about the 5 years, but all it needs is 5 good years. 10 years down the line from now, and it could be rise from the ashes like a phoenix, as you just said, and I agree with that fully. So the match card, this Dynasty pay-per-view was the perfect sort of summates what we were just saying, folks. Like on paper, Ospreay versus Danielson, a true dream match, like for a mark like myself. Swerve versus Joe, 2 guys I love. Rosa versus Storm. To me, if I was owning and operating AEW, this is like my big match that I've been building to. Rosa versus Storm, and it's just kind of there. No real story. Willow Nightingale versus Julia Hart. Willow Nightingale winning the belt so that she can have a fucking rematch with Mercedes Moné. That's a New Japan strong style tournament feud, and Tony Khan wants to recreate it here because we have a great partnership. It's just
And because nobody saw it and it was a year ago.
Bro, and it like so it's just it's like I should care about this. I love Willow. I love Julia Hart. Why don't I care about this? The ladder match, FTR and the Bucks, could not care less about this. Knew the Bucks were going to win. Everyone knew it. Jack Perry runs in during the ladder match. Told you guys, I said it a week ago, a couple weeks ago. Listeners, you guys fucking know. Told motherfuckers. He's going to come in that ladder match, and they're going to try and, this is like their big thing that they're going with, And why do I know? Because Dave said it, and Dave's only saying he's only ever right about AEW creative shit, and he stooges it all the time if you just pay attention to what he says. The AEW Continental Championship, Pac versus Okada. Again, this is like dream match level shit for an Uber mark. The problem is that we don't care. No one cares. There was a 6-man. Pac got jumped, but it was to get over the fact that FTR and the Bucks hate each other because Punk slapped Jack Perry. Like, none of this shit even makes sense. And you have the Continental title and the International Championship. What the fuck's the difference? In the International Championship, you have Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, 2 friends who have such a history in pro wrestling. You have all the Ring of Honor stuff. I don't know, man. Like, we don't care about this match. Where's the story? Oh, the story was taking place on Collision. That's what people will say. But nobody's watching Collision. Not enough people are or maybe it is for Tony to get a mediocre TV deal and not get the money he expected and all of these things. Maybe it is enough for him. Maybe this is all he wants.
Best friends breaking up and a battle between, Red Dragon, the Elite, or whatever you Undisputed Era, whatever you want to call them. I mean, we've seen all this a million times before. And Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong have been for 15 and 20 years respectively 2 of the most undersized, probably skilled wrestlers in the ring, but they're dull as paint. Neither one of them has a personality between the 2 of them. Roderick Strong has apparently developed screaming to be his personality, which was funny the first couple times, and then it wasn't anymore. But I mean, I get that people like exhibitions. I just wish that people understood that most people don't want exhibitions. This at least had a story to it, but it felt rushed. And I mean, this isn't a pay-per-view match. This could have been a main event on a Collision or a Rampage. I wouldn't have enjoyed it. I wouldn't have been like, yeah, but I mean, it would have been good for the TV audience. This didn't need to be a pay-per-view match.
And I'm not burying any of the talent, because the reason I'm breezing through this, folks, is because there's certain things we're going to talk about, but there's one overlying thing here. So the FTW Championship match, Hook versus Jericho, I'll just save that for a second. The trios match, Adam Cole. This did not need to be on the pay-per-view. Edge, Mark Briscoe, Eddie Kingston, House of Black. You're spending all this money on Edge. You don't have a big match for him. This doesn't get anybody more over. This is nothing. It just buries fucking people more. I guess House of Black won the fucking match, but we don't care because it's like, just give us, I don't know. There should be a Malachi Black, Adam Copeland feud. Like you got to have a story with Edge that's more compelling than him just teaming up with Kingston and fucking Mark Briscoe. And I love Mark Briscoe, but again,
there's Adam Copeland has the TNT title. Eddie Kingston has the New Japan Strong title, and Mark Briscoe has the Ring of Honor World Championship. If they're going to be on the card, shouldn't they be defending those belts on a pay-per-view instead of this throwaway six-man match?
Yes, or just only the TNT Championship. Because what I'm trying to say is, like, this thing was stuffed to the gills, and every match went so fucking long, including the pre-show titles for titles. So we had a 6-man up here with Edge and these guys. But then down here they unified the fucking world trio, the ROH trios and the AEW championships. You know what I mean?
And the guns, they really? Are they?
Yeah, and the Bullet Club's gold one. No, they're just gonna all carry around 2 belts. Right. And then they're gonna separate like a knockoff fucking Judgment Day here. But Bullet Club Gold, they have these trios belts. 2 sets of them now, which is like, great, you pulled the trigger, but look at Jay White, who you invested in. He's on fucking pre-shows. The Acclaimed, whether you like him or not, they're getting big pops. So does Bullet Club Gold. They look like stars. They have a great entrance, great presentation. And instead of featuring them and going like, look, they unified these belts or whatever, you have a random trios match up here. And all of these matches, like Seidel versus Beretta, didn't need to go as long as it did. Cassidy and Shibata versus Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty. Why? Like, oh, they're just great wrestlers who want to work. They gave it so much time, and that's all on the pre-show. So I'm already like, damn, I'm lulling out. We're getting through this trios match. It is what it is. So overall, all of the wrestling moves and athleticism were great. And we're going to get into Ospreay versus Danielson, but all of the athleticism and all the moves and false finishes and shit. Okay. Yeah, it's awesome. It's good wrestling. None of the stories matter, and some of this wasn't good wrestling. So the FTW Championship match, Hook versus Jericho. Jericho won and beat Hook for the FTW title in 2024. He got dropped on his head on a suplex through a table outside, completely dropped on his head. Like, people are talking about Danielson's injury scare. I'm sure you saw the clips, Dose. Yes. Jericho was also dropped on his head brutally on a fucking table, pulls out the win over Hook in 2024, beats this kid for this meaningless title. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, I mean, listen, there are people who get dropped in their head in wrestling, and nothing happens. So, no harm, no foul. It tends, I mean, but there are so many people that we see get injured in wrestling, and I think that there's probably twice as many that we see in AEW than in other leagues, mostly WWE. But we see people get hurt in WWE too, and they get hurt. It's not ballet. But the thing with AEW is that we don't see so many people why isn't Chris Statlander? Why hasn't she been in action for weeks? She's probably got a secret injury. Why, Julia Hart lost her title, not just for the story, but the reason the match was so bad and why it was so quick is because she's been working with an injury for the last 2 months, where she probably shouldn't be working with an injury. So they're
Sasha Banks, Tony Khan admits as well. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to tack on to what you're saying. He says at the press conference that Sasha Banks is not cleared, or Mercedes Moné isn't cleared. She will be cleared by Double or Nothing. So they signed her, rolled her out. Why the fuck are we putting her on TV? Like, why are we doing all this when she's not even good to go? She didn't even wrestle on this pay-per-view. She just did a run out to save Willow, who hurt her. Why are you saving the girl who hurt her, dude? Who hurt you?
If her salary is reported as true, she'll be paid more than $1 million before she wrestles.
Absolutely, and it's incredible. Good for her. You know what I mean? Do your thing, man. But all I'm saying is, goddamn, as far as Toni, we can be critical of it, and also Adam Cole gets wheeled out during the pay-per-view, and then he stands up, and the people, they gave it a reaction, but it's just like, I don't know. Apparently he hasn't been on the road because he can't heal up as much. They spent a whole year building up to that devil shit just for Adam Cole to not be on TV for all these months going into Dynasty. Now he's back, and Okay, but we already had his big devil reveal while he was hurt. It's just there's so much like one step forward, two steps back with AEW, and that's what drives me the most insane with it. The other thing I want to talk about, everybody's talking about the Swerve and Samoa Joe. I don't know. It was, I don't know, one of the better matches because it was longer, but it wasn't as long. There was a lot of just also like, I don't know, people kicking out of a lot of shit, but I do love Samoa Joe. Was it the right time? I don't know if Swerve does anything for AEW. Now I hope he adapts. Hopefully he can get them ratings increases. I don't know if that's possible with him. But Samoa Joe, I feel like, is a guy who's real. He's in Hollywood. He does voiceovers for video games. He's movies. He's in Twisted Metal TV shows, really successful. So he's like a guy that I'm like, you just keep him on top for a while, or these long title reigns mean more if you can give more opponents. And Tony's just sort of handing out, I don't know. Swerve got a lot of backlash, and I love him, but I feel like they passed the point to pull the trigger on him. Again, it's just like they missed the opportunity, and now they're trying to like redo this hotness they had before. I don't know. Your thoughts on Swerve becoming the new world champion and face of AEW?
Well, I wanted him to get the title, the
Yeah.
last pay-per-view that
Me
was
too.
several months ago. And people said, well, you can't make Joe a transitional champion. I'm like, why not? He's a 43-year-old guy. That's exactly what he's there for.
And they just did it anyways.
Right. And so, you know, the conventional thinking is that Swerve will lose the title to Wembley to Ospreay.
That's what's happening. So now basically and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but he's shoehorned in like we already know. They're going to Wembley, giving it to Ospreay at Wembley. Like, so now his reign is almost diminished by that, to where it's like Joe had the best match at last year's Wembley per the people in the building and the people watching at home, him and Punk for the most part. And so did some people will argue Ospreay. So why not build to that? And then Swerve can feud him and be the home invading baby invader, heel, dastardly heel and shit. Because the whole thing is that like they're both fucking tweeners. So it just takes away from the match, and they're like, oh, it's Swerve's crowning moment. Sorry, I interrupted you. I want your thoughts.
It's your show. You're allowed to interrupt all you like.
I know. I'm very just like this pay-per-view. It was like, yeah, there's good matches, but like I just feel like sorry.
Here's what I think about the Swerve thing. I mean, we'll never know until they try whether or not he can do anything. Joe wasn't doing anything for ratings, and Joe is great. Everyone loves Joe. I love Joe. Joe, you can make him a heel or a face. It doesn't matter. The crowd chants Joe is going to kill you and cheers no matter what you do with him, which was one of the many mistakes they did with Wardlow to kill him, is put him with Joe. But as far as, I mean, yeah, they box themselves into a corner, but I would rather him be the champion even for this short period of time than not. I mean, I know it seems a little tokenish, but wouldn't you rather him be the champion? And like, here's the thing. I don't know why wrestling fans assume that if you win the title, you never win it again. We know that's not true. John Cena's won the champion 16 times. Ric Flair, depending on what day, is talking 16 to 24 times. Randy Orton's won 14 times. Edge won 11 times. I mean, people win titles multiple. Punk was 2-time. Moxley was 2-time. One of the things I was most annoyed with about AEW Dynamite is that they opened the show with Jon Moxley and the IWGP title.
I know. That should be Joe's slot, dude. They're welcome home, this homecoming. Bro, that's not your belt. Like, what the fuck? Or at least build to a story where we're sending Mox there to take out their baddest guy, and can he come home and bring this title here and blah, 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 and there's like an invasion or something. Okay, but that's not it.
Triple H does the same thing 2 weeks in a row by opening up Raw with Cody, and Priest should be the champion there. I mean, you know, I get it, but I don't get it with Moxley. And
Cody gets those ratings, bro. They're all going right, but who's the draw there? Because I agree, dude. They got Priest on Raw doing shit with like Ricochet and shit, and you're just like, I love Ricochet, but like, come on, you know?
Yeah, but people tune in at the beginning anyway. I think they would have been better off if they saved Cody for like 9:30 or whatever, 9:45, and they would have kept. Anyway, that's not important. But I mean, you know, Moxley isn't even your promotion's champion. Don't start with him. I mean, and you know, if you think it's a big deal, which I'm not sure it is, but you know, put him somewhere put him at the 9:55 spot. So, you know, if you think it's a big deal, prove it. But you open with your champion to, you know, tell us that they're going to win. But I don't know. I would rather Swerve have this chance, and even if it is a 4-month reign, than no reign. And I think that you could have Joe work his way back into contention, maybe, and you make it a triple threat, and he's the one who gets pinned. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to get into all
Oh,
that.
yeah,
I've heard both sides as to the argument for and against Swerve getting time, and everyone has a valid point, and
right.
everyone's right and everyone's wrong at the same time. I just think it's better to do it than not to do it. Yes, it feels like tokenism. Yes, it feels like it's going to be short term, but let them prove us wrong. I mean, let's see how the story plays out. I mean, I I know that Tony doesn't have a good history with storytelling and
Not at all.
good scripts. He's a good matchmaker, according to some.
Yeah, so
Um,
am I when I'm playing 2K, you know?
right. So
Like,
let's see how he does it. But do I have confidence? No. But does I mean, But can Swerve be part of this company in the top card for the next one? I mean, one thing about Tony was we know if once you get to the top of the card, there's a pretty good chance he's not going to give up on you, even if he should. Sammy Guevara, Chris Jericho, Daniel Garcia. I mean, nobody wants to see any of those guys, and we see them, constantly. Wheeler
so
Yuta until he got hurt.
yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. So during the Jericho match as well, not to jump back and forth, but they're chanting retire to like please retire, please retire. Then he beats Hook for the FTW belt, man.
Well, I mean, isn't that appropriate? Everyone's basically saying, please try, and he's saying, fuck the world. So, no, I think that was terrible, but actually, I almost don't blame him for a different reason because I predicted Hook would win, but I predicted for all the wrong reasons. I said, Hook said that he's going to explore his options in free agency, and he basically told Tony he was going to walk out the door. And in the past, when somebody has said that, Tony's rewarded them by keeping a title. So he actually took the title off of him. So smart, because Hook has basically told you he's leaving at the end of his contract. So Tony, start listening to people. Good on you, Tony.
Good point, actually. Yeah, let's put Tony over for that. And yeah, as far as Joe goes, like I wouldn't be shocked if we see him back in WWE in the next 1 year or 2 years. That'd be my
Whatever.
guess.
I mean, Joe is a professional, and he has no ill regard for WWE, and he knows that Triple H loves him. He knows that Vince is the one who didn't, and Triple H seems firmly in charge right now. But whatever. Joe has done great in AEW. Also, he's whoever pays him more at this stage of the game. He's already got, like you said, he's got that Hollywood stuff going. So he's got a SAG-AFTRA card. So listen, Joe, whoever pays you more, it's all good.
Joe's the fucking man, and he just does his work. No boo-boo face. He went out there. He wrestled a solid match against Swerve, and that match gets overshadowed by this match and all the discourse about it. Lastly, Ospreay versus Danielson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll tell you from a guy who's watched Danielson wrestle fucking buttfuck nowhere. Okay, I've seen him wrestle like nobody nowhere before he was anyone, and I've been a fan of this guy for a long fucking time. Okay, I'm talking like I would watch Total Bellas to see Danielson and shit on the show. You know what I mean? I'm not even joking. To see Total.
I watch Total Bellas.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those shows. So I'm a fan of this guy. Okay, and I'm a big Ospreay fan. We put him over 1 million times on this show. I've put over his matches. I've just said, my only gripe with him is the Triple H thing. Obviously, I clowned him for that because that was silly, and he admitted as much. But also, I was like, his matches he hits like 19 finishers, and then it's always like he's got to hit 30 finishers to beat a guy. So it's like burying his own moves, kind of like it makes his matches predictable, right? And that's been my criticism of him. This match was much the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Dave Meltzer and shit had a little hissy fit about the Bryan Ospreay match, and he's like, Triple H regretted it, like for sure. He's like he's kicking rocks right now, pretty much is what Dave was saying. I'll bring it up later, but this match, so everybody's saying like match of the year, and I'm sitting here going, listen, we are in the year's not even, we're in April, folks. So there's a lot of the year left. And this match, I'm going to tell you as a fan of both of these guys, okay? It was botchy at times. Danielson got dropped on his head 2 or 3 times minimum that we could count that have been clipped and are all over social media. And, if the whole story between these two is like, oh, you're the best. No, I'm the best. Let's see. We're all the best. But Ospreay's the best wrestler in the world. But the storyline is, let's say assume that it's that Danielson being injured after this and seizing out, which triggered a lot of people, which I think is good if it was a work. But let's assume it's a work. Ospreay's the best wrestler in the world who didn't realize the ref was calling the match off with a doctor. So you hidden blade the guy. Like I thought, like I don't know, that's just like, so you're just burying your own this whole like gimmick. If your gimmick's like I'm the best, which is what he says in the press, he's like I'm better than all these guys, bruv, insinuating he's the best in the world. And I'm always one of these guys who's like, if you're the best, you don't got to say it. Other people will say it for you, and not Meltzer because he doesn't count. But anyways, the outcome of this match has riled up the IWC. This is better than Cody Roman. This is better than blah 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 blah. And I'm just telling you, me personally, right when the match ended at Pro Wrestle Times on X, you can see I said it. Your boy Phil said it. This is like a 3 out of 5 for both these guys. Like it was botchy. Ospreay was no selling everything. Like he was getting viciously kneed in the face in a cravat position, and then a minute later, he's not even selling his face, not selling his fucking head. He just did like 4 power-ups. There was a bunch of obvious false finishes where it was just too obvious. And then also, because if you watch Ospreay's matches as much as I do, because I'm a fan of them, you just knew they were false finishes because that's why I prefaced with what I said. My criticism of him stands, and it holds true in this match as well, that everyone's saying the greatest match of all time. And also, we knew Ospreay's going to fucking win. Like, we knew Danielson. So it was very predictable. So, and then the buildup was just really nothing, because same with Swerve and Joe. It was like Swerve didn't invade Joe's baby's house. Like, they're both like tweener heels. The whole thing's like, you're the champ. I want to be the first black champ. We're both champions. So it's the same story. It's nothing. It's meaningless. And
but
this match,
Bryan and Ospreay is even worse, because the story is who's best in the world.
Yeah, well, you're the best. I'm the best. We're the best. And it's just like, that's all AEW is. And people will go, well, that's what fighting is. It's like, yeah, but that's why pro wrestling's so great. It's great.
But it's worse. Because Bryan has lost every important match of the last 12 months. So they had to give him some stupid wins over like Shane Taylor and people from CMLL in the last 5 weeks after they already booked this match to make it look like he might be the best in the world again. So, I mean, they didn't sign the O's to lose. I didn't listen. Full disclosure, I didn't watch Dynasty. I didn't watch a second of it. I've seen highlights. I'm not trying to pretend I did. So I can't comment on the match, but I'm sure it was a video game match that some people love that style. It was
pretty good, but ultimately it's like, this is why pro wrestling's so great, is because the underlying theme, like you watch the UFL, you like football, you're into all types of shit.
Right.
And me, I'm into MMA. I love basketball. I like hockey, all that type of stuff. So the underlying thing of sports that goes without saying is we're all vying to be the best.
Right.
We're all vying to, that goes without saying. What makes pro wrestling so awesome is that you can then expand upon that and make these other like larger than life characters and explore things and make it more relatable than just like a hockey player going, yeah, we give it 110% and, we're just trying to play a good defense. Like, that's what all athletes do. None of them are, very, like, there are some that are flagrant, but there's so many of them out there. So with wrestling, you can really individualize people and make them relatable or make them larger than life, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, your whole wrestling company can't just be like, oh, I'm the best. No, you're the best. No, we're the best. Like, so that Danielson Ospreay match, it was a 3 out of fucking 5 in my humble opinion. Okay. If we're going to go with stars or whatever out of 5. And so, but then the IWC saying like it's greater than Cody Roman. They're saying this is the greatest match of all time. We're like, what? We're like, a quarter into the year, not even. So just everybody chill the fuck out, or a third into the year. Part of me, everybody needs to chill the fuck out. And we'll see how the year plays out. But this was by no means one of the best matches.
I don't care if it was or if it wasn't, because an all-time great story, an all-time great moment of WrestleMania will be remembered forever.
Ever, dude.
And the match of the year is only match of the year for the next 8 months of this year. Or
the guys who read fucking Dave as well. Like, it's just people don't. It's just, and I'm not knocking them for that. Like, I'm not trying to diminish Danielson or Ospreay, but it's like, bro, Alexander and Ospreay had a better match.
Well, I am, because we know at the next AEW pay-per-view, people are going to be proclaiming something else the match of the year and the greatest pay-per-view of all time. All of these pay-per-views can't be so great. I mean, they just can't. I happened to see the first All In. It wasn't a very good show. I don't think it was. There was a few good matches. Yeah, I don't think it was like the best wrestling show ever, but it was cool to see like that many people in a building, of course, but it wasn't like the greatest show of all time or anything. And All Out was an excellent Ring of Honor pay-per-view.
And this year they're doing All In and then All Out a week apart again. What do you think about that?
Terrible. It was terrible last year. It's terrible this year.
Makes no. What do you think his approach is? Like, oh, we'll get the people who couldn't in America who want that AEW fever but couldn't make it to All In. Is that the approach? Like,
I
what's
think
the
that
idea?
Swift Mania is going to be so big they're going to add extra dates and he's going to get bounced to the Wembley. Now, what do I think? I don't know what his thinking is. I think that he thinks it worked out pretty well for him once, so why not? And then you could get, he has 2 pay-per-views, so he can get 40 people on each pay-per-view, and then they all get money. And I think in his mind that's a good idea, and that's being nice, and it is. But I mean, unless you really have different brands and you don't have that Collision Dynamite brand split anymore, it's going to be really hard to put 2 solid pay-per-views back to back with top people unless you divide up the title. And he doesn't have the. I don't mean to put anyone down. I think I have this. I think we all do. I think I have adult onset ADHD, but I think he has constant ADHD, and I think everything is now, lives in the moment, and he does things by the seat of his pants.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, man. So following the pay-per-view, we have the media scrum. So and I have some points highlighted here that I definitely want your reaction to along with mine. They kept this one much tighter and way more professional, and Tony's putting an effort into being like, look, it's only an hour 18. Usually Tony goes for like 2 hours after the wrestlers go. So, and then they didn't just parade Jericho out here so he can give us his infinite wisdom about the pro wrestling world. Tony, I have a great idea. I'll beat Hook in the rematch. Then there'll be a trilogy. Because the whole thing, right, is that Hook beat him on Dynamite, and then he beat Hook on Dynasty. So Hook's got to get the rematch or not, or Jericho just Hoganed him. But either way, this is the AEW Dynasty media scrum. Just had to get hydrated. And so it starts out, we'll go to where Swerve comes out. So Renee Paquette's here. She does the intro. I might actually do this and scroll away at points just so I don't get pulled down. Don Stevens, man, always on the hunt.
There you go.
Got Toni.
Now, there's a lot of people. Now, Marty McFlyer, I wish he jumped in. Grammy Award-winning Marty McFlyer. I have to put it.
Wow.
He won 2 Grammys this year, man. And his latest song I was actually playing before we went on air was that Hurricane song. He actually wrote that song, wrote on it as well. So, and it's blowing up huge. So shout out Marty. And he was going to come through. He might still, but he's a late bloomer. But either way,
he'd be the most famous person I know.
Yeah, pretty much, man. And he's a frequent guest of the show. He's like a brother to me.
Well, now I'm going to start being a frequent guest just because I want to clout chase.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Hey, you're welcome here anytime, Dose. You know that. It's an open door. Any live show, anytime you see me live, you just feel free. You ask for the link, and I'll send it your way.
Too much of me is too much of me.
Hey, man, I enjoy it. I enjoy you. I enjoy this show
say
very
that
much.
Now.
Yeah.
just trust me on this.
So, but I just brought Marty into this because he is like, he tweeted out, he's like, yo, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Now, I'm not going to attempt to break down why, like, what a lot of black Twitters getting mad at Swerve for winning the fucking belt and being Joe. I don't know the ins and outs of this. Someone's gonna have to come break it down. I was hoping, that's why I wanted Marty, because I wanted him to give his thoughts on the whole Joe. And he's Marty's also Samoan, and he's related to people who wrestle. Let's just put it that way. And so he has a vested interest in this.
I wonder who they could be.
Yeah, in this Joe Swerve match, right? And so
I don't remember seeing Marty McFly on that family tree that the Rock showed.
They're not. It's not that family tree, but either way, he had a vested interest in this, and he was very vocally passionate about it. So I wanted him to, and he's got a large section of people who they're like, yeah, fuck Swerve, and so I don't get it why. I love Swerve, but I'd love to get his perspective on that. Maybe next show, we'll save it for the next time. But either way, yeah, your thoughts. Here he is, my champion's black, obviously, and I mean, call it whatever you want. A lot of people give Tony Khan shit. Look at his face here is what I wanted to point out. Like, he's like, say, bitch, I made it happen. I told you. And I just feel like Swerve is a guy who, I agree with you, they should have pulled the trigger before. I'm kind of like, because it's a little too late with him. But he is a guy who rises to the occasion. People are like, oh, he just doesn't have the size. He bulked up like 30 pounds. Right. People are like, he needs to, I don't know. To me, I feel like he's a workhorse type of guy who... he's not, I don't know. I feel like he's going to be a good how do I put this? Like, he's rapping, he's out there, he's got a podcast that does well, he's out there at baseball games throwing pitches and doing right, dude. I'm a guy who's like, I feel like you give him the ball, he's gonna run with it. And I think this is, if you're gonna give it to anyone right now, I'm glad it's like Swerve and not like fucking MJF or something. Like, no offense to MJF, but God, his run left a sour taste in my mouth too. And yeah, either way, he's super happy. Everyone applauds him. Tony's like, say bitch. So I just want to point that out.
Ton of hard work.
And then at the end here, he actually gets
nothing was guaranteed at all.
Just to touch on what I said before, his sort of crossover appeal, he has like a shoe, like the Pressure Ones. Like, I don't know if it's with Nike, so I just want to play that. And he gifts Tony a pair. And he just says, nothing was handed to me. And Tony's like, yeah, these were your favorite. This is your favorite? A fucking soda water, dude. Come on. You can't make this shit up, dude.
She's a cute woman. She just exudes nice.
Yeah, she's like their Bailey if they knew how to book and do good creative and build her properly. She would be like their Bailey.
Even though they can't, they still can't. She's just someone that you can't fuck up. You just can't. She overcame the mist.
No, you're absolutely right. And before we were speaking about Marty McFlyer, 2-time Grammy winner, and he's here right now.
All right.
Greetings.
What's up, Marty? We've been going. So we were just popping at the fact that Willow brought Tony Khan a soda water and was like, here.
They clearly listen.
Yeah, listen, Willow.
Hi, Tony.
What's up, Tony? So really quickly, we just watched Swerve. He broke out the Pressure Ones, and I wanted so why is Black Twitter mad at Swerve? And what are your thoughts on Swerve leaving with the world title as opposed to Samoa Joe? I want your thoughts on that. We reviewed Dynasty already, but I really want to specifically break that down for us so we understand it.
Okay. Make a long answer less long. First thing, to answer your question, for obvious biases aside, I'm annoyed with it, with him winning. For one, I understand why they were doing it. I also think they're like a month and a half too late with that because it's kind of fizzled out. I just feel like they're gonna do this so they can say they did it. Then it won't happen again for like another 5 years, and they're gonna serve him up to Ospreay at Wembley. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
In terms of that.
What about like the match itself? Like, are you pissed that you wanted Joe to win? You wanted Swerve to win? Give me your thoughts on that. Like overall, were you like coming out of the pay-per-view like, oh, this is the shits? And then also, why is Twitter like?
Oh, why are they mad? Why are we mad? Okay.
You guys are mad at Swerve. I'm like putting Swerve over, and I'm like, I need
not so much that we're mad. Okay, so we're not mad, but it's just in the sense that you can congratulate somebody without having to fuck with them like that, for lack of a better term. Right. To answer your question, in terms of the match, we knew it was going to happen. It was upsetting. I could tell it was going to happen when Joe has had like 2, maybe 3 matches as champion, and then you have full episodes of Dynamite, and all he does is a promo in his suit, and then it's done. The lack of respect in that aspect of it, especially with all the stuff leading up to taking it off Max, it just they could have did more with it. They should have did more with it. They didn't, but
yeah,
to be expected.
Yeah, I just see people on Twitter though, and they're like, like Swerve hates black people and stuff. Can you?
Context. So yeah, let me give context for those outside of the scope.
Just break that down for I'm a native dude, and clearly Thesz is a cracker over here.
Okay. All right. Well, the first thing, the issues with him is, in a sense, is the kind of the same issues that we have with Moose. Like Moose's whole thing is to draw complete attention away from it. He kind of belittles the movement in general. Any kind of praise that we give him, it's always, well, why does it have to be this? Why does it have to be about that? Why does it have to be about color? In a sense, we're celebrating it because in the scope of pro wrestling, it's not a very common thing, and generally we want to celebrate that. Moose does everything to denounce it. It's almost like he's black to spite himself, and it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to the culture because it's like we want to be able to support, but you do everything to throw it back in our face.
Okay, so then is that like Swerve does? Like how? So then what did Swerve
similar? Yes.
Okay.
Not as bad. in the sense, because Swerve's whole thing is like, okay, I'm bringing hip hop to AEW. I'm doing this to expand the culture, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. And some of it's true. I have mutuals that rock with him and that know him, that he legitimately does care in that aspect of it. The part that's corny is the first thing. There was if you're familiar with the Black Wrestling Illustrated, like the 500 list.
No, so like I'm familiar with the list. Like they made a list of the top.
Yeah,
5.
we just so there's the top 5 like Black performers in across all like indies, all industry, and it's a Black owned and supported publication, and they pay close attention. They're great friends. So shout out to them. And every year, I guess, long and short of it, he wasn't happy with where he was placed on the list, and asked them to never put him on the list again. It shouldn't be about this. Basically, he got in his feelings because he wasn't as high as he thought he should have been. Keep in mind, I think at the time he had just got over there, like just got over to AEW, and his NXT run was all right. But granted, like, and I think this was before the Nana thing kind of like popped off, because I feel like that's what really got him over, was the song and Nana. And he's a great worker. He's an incredibly talented guy. But the thing was, it was like, okay, we're doing this to highlight you, spotlight you, give you your flowers. And the whole thing, it's like a spit back in the face. Oh no, don't ever put me on that list again. I don't want to be on that list. Basically, big timing your own people.
Yeah.
That was already that was already problematic. Then it was the whole issue with he leaves this track. Like who you like, love who you love, it completely works. Like speaking, and I'm speaking as somebody biracial, I'm Black and Samoan. The problem with it is
The Rock?
he picks it. Yeah, he picks it, right? Just without all the hype. The problem with it is like, okay, he picks and chooses when he wants to represent the culture, and then when he wants to speak against it or kind of bite back. There's so much more context to it. I'm just giving you the short version of it for easier to make it more easily digestible. But it was like, okay, you have your dancers, never people of color, or for the most part, the people that look like you. The inclusion, because the whole thing is he gets in these scrums, talks about, I'm highlighting Black culture, I'm highlighting this, I'm doing that. And it's like, okay, you can reflect that in your dancers.
In his dance, during his entrance or something.
This
is why I needed context, because I'm like, this is shit I'm not even noticing. You know what I mean? So like that's
if you know, you know. If you don't notice it, you wouldn't notice it.
Can I answer your question, Marty, on that? Because as the old white guy who is hearing what you're saying and never thought about it that way, I would think that him as the lead man having the white dancers subordinate to him is sort of
it's been a joke. It has been a joke. That has. I'll let you know now. That has been a joke.
No, this is a question, not a joke. I mean,
no. The jokes have been made around to it, just in the sense because it's like, all right, him having the dancers, it's completely fine. But the thing is when you grandstand about culture, when he wanted to shout out Kofi, right? There was a denouncement in that too. Like, I wanted to get it as close, basically paraphrasing, he wanted it to feel as much as it did with Kofi Mania, right? Even though, okay, you did that, you only want it when it's a cheap pop referencing the other company, you're going to bring up Kofi. Completely not speaking about the fact that Lashley was champion.
Twice.
When they were saying that twice, they were saying, oh, the milestones he broke, and he had a Black manager managing a Black champion. I'm like, I'm sorry, MVP was managing Lashley when that happened. Big E was champion.
Can I ask you another question about it? Because I want to explore the thing I was asking about. So what I think you're saying is that it actually means more to, I'm just going to use your words, the culture, because it's obviously not my culture, for someone like a Swerve to actually employ and uplift more people rather than to look like he's the front man and he's the boss over white folks or other people. You'd rather see it have it trickle into the community itself and give more people of color prominence.
Yeah, it's like you want to give a spotlight. Like, of course, if you wanted to be like, okay, I've got white people dancing for me and my employee, sure, that's one thing. But that's it doesn't matter. Our thing is you want to push hip hop, you want to push the culture. You walked out in your entrance looking like Killmonger, but at the same time, it was like you don't reflect that in your dancers. You make it widely known that you don't really prefer to date black women. Your choice is your choice, but it's like, okay.
Yeah. So what is that? Sorry, I saw a clip of a song. So I remember you brought that up to me.
I was getting right to that.
I didn't see it. And then on Twitter, someone was, I forget, it was like, I Talk Wrestling or one of these accounts posted.
But is that a song or is that him? I mean,
it's a song.
It's a story.
It's his song.
It's his song that he like wrote, and that's his verse where he says, I forget the bar exactly, but he says something about Marty.
He's talking about the girls. He's talking about the girls that he has. The snippet that he puts out, that when he put the song out, was specifically that part where he says he's mentioning girls. Yeah, when he talks, he says, "I got a girl that's black and ugly," and then blah 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 afterwards. And it was like, "Yo, you're gonna put your snippet out."
Whatever. Yeah, that is kind of weird, but I get. Yeah, okay. I appreciate.
And when people call him, when people call him out on it, he blocks them. He runs away from the smoke. But it was like, you do everything to go out your way. Like, you can't push culture and not do anything to necessarily move it forward unless it's benefiting you. It's more placating than it is being a real true representation.
So how does he redeem himself from, like, people are already dragging him? So do you think he's just like, fuck it, I'm going to push forward doing me? Or do you think, like, what do you think would appease people who view it this way,
Okay. Well, yeah, it's not even so much, because here's the thing. Don't get it confused. We support, like, in the sense, like, okay, we are happy that it is an accomplishment to see a black male or black female, a person of color in general, but to see someone black be the first black AEW champion, that is a milestone, that is important. Nobody takes away from that. Our point of it is, or at least what most of Twitter or most of Black Twitter feels about it is, we don't fuck with you like that. I'm paraphrasing, but we don't fuck with you like that. Like, we could, like, cool, like, we're not gonna discount it and act like it's not a milestone. The thing is, we just don't have to fuck with you like that. We're not gonna celebrate you like that at the same time, because you don't celebrate us. You bring some rappers on TV and you dress a certain way, and it's like, okay, you reflect the culture, but when we try to highlight you, or when we wonder why you kind of pick and choose your moments of when that's being brought in, that's a problem. Bro, if he was just doing him and it was just Swerve or whatever, but I'm bringing, urban culture, black culture, I'm bringing hip hop, I'm going to reference Kofi Mania and all this other stuff. It's like you're picking and choosing because you're leaving stuff out. You're not practicing what you're trying to preach. Well, and that might be working different to the masses, but to the people who look like you and to the culture that you're pushing and the people that live, die, and represent that and see that and want to love that in you, it's misrepresentation, and to us, it's like, all right, that's foul. Ain't no half stepping.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you, like, sharing that perspective of it with me, because I really didn't fully know exactly where people were coming from with that, and I was like, I'm just not even going to comment on it. I'd rather just have Marty explain it to me a little bit, because it's way.
Yeah, I hope that I gave that answer, because the thing is, if you look it up right now and you see the discourse and you see the people that are quote unquote shitting on him, we're all saying the same thing.
Actually,
I hope that helped.
It does.
Yeah,
it did. For answering the question, it helps give me perspective that I don't think I would have had.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either.
I have heard both sides of it, and I understand. Mm-hmm. I just don't know which is right or wrong. And as a middle-aged white guy, I don't think it really matters what I think exactly. I think I can just sit it out, really, which is.
Yeah. It helps that you understand, though, because I've seen a lot of people who weren't open to listen, that just jumped in. Well, if it was, because then they turn it into a tribalistic argument. Well, if this was WWE and blah, 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 then they do this. I'm like, no, listen to what we're trying to say. Like, Swerve could fix it in the sense that it's just, if you're pushing this rhetoric, or this is what you're trying to bring, a more urban approach and more representation of Black culture in AEW, because it's been misrepresented. So has it been with women and other people of color, not just Black people. But if you're going to do that, you got to reflect it full force, because if you're pushing hip hop in origin, it's expanded into American culture and it's worldwide. It's worldwide culture at this point, but in its core, hip hop is Black culture. So if you're going to push that and show it, and show the beauty of it, and you want it to be more balanced and make it more fair, as he likes to say, you can't do that without including your people. Or if we call you to task on something, take it. You got to own that shit. Well, but he doesn't. He runs from the smoke.
Well, so that would be, I'm just appreciative that you pointed, and I didn't realize like he runs from the smoke or he's even being confronted by this. I just go by what I see on the IWC and what sort of bleeds over between, that, I guess that because everything's a bubble on the internet. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And if any of the listeners are triggered by any of this, sorry, folks. That's what PWT is all about, man. We don't shy away from
it. He was extremely balanced.
Yeah, it's just we got to give it every perspective, bro. It's what the show's all about.
It's like, we get it. We support it. We're happy that it happened. We're happy for him. It's just we're not going to celebrate you the same way we did in E. We're not going to celebrate you the same way we did a Lashley, a Kofi. You know what I mean? You're not going to get all of that, because when those moments happened each, they stood on it. They were proud.
But Dose, you gotta actually skate out of here, man. So I want you to plug all what you got going on, my friend.
There's too much, but Hammerlock Hangover is the wrestling podcast. You already mentioned Tooneytown Wrestling, which is not my show, but I'm part of routinely. Garden of Doom and Garden Views are my non-wrestling podcasts. They're on the same feed, Garden of Doom. You can find it anywhere, and that's sort of esoteric mythology, comparative mythology, ufology, cryptids, things that go bump in the night.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's got all sorts of stuff. Garden Views is sort of the same kind of variety, but more legal, business, and some variety, some entertainment law in there as well. So, I mean, there's something for everybody there. And I've found people who found the show, and like I looked the next day and like the listenership was showed, but it's like the same 12 people. They just listened to 10 shows in one day. So,
well, you got to let me come on one of your shows, maybe one of your wrestling shows or something like that. And yeah, we'll
definitely going to check it out.
One for that. But yeah, no, I appreciate you guys plugging in and doing that. And my little passion project, if you like UFL football, or if you're interested, it's season 1. It's only week 5 coming up. Me and my oldest son, he's 23. So it's the Lip Men on the UFL. And you can watch us on the Power or Normal Guys YouTube platform. And basically all the other, they're on Rumble, they're on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, you name it. And then it's also a downloadable podcast on the Power or Normal Guys. And I met them. They solicited me because they listened to Garden of Doom. And so I do a feature on their show every now and then where I'm the paranormal attorney. And they ask me questions like, can you be charged with murder if you shoot a Bigfoot? Or what happens if you buy a haunted house? Is there liability?
That is a good question.
And fun stuff like that. So, and I try to take it seriously. I also do some wrestling shorts for Wrestling Soup. And I've been on a few other, like Frank and Gus's when Gus isn't around, and a couple mashes with Mishes. And so there's some interesting stuff there as well if you look hard enough. On Twitter, Evil Dose at Garden of Doom is where I'm most active on wrestling. At IcarusFellMD is my other Twitter account. You're welcome to follow me on either or both. If you want mostly wrestling, that's going to be mostly Evil Dose at Garden of Doom. If you want me to fawn over Morgan Fairchild and Heather Thomas, who were pinup girls from when I was young and who follow me back, then you want to follow me on Icarus Fell. I stand over 65-year-old women because I'm a 55-year-old man. So
hey, man, you earned it. And listen, Dose, you always have an open door here. Anytime I'm live, anytime I'm doing a recorded show, you are more than welcome to tap in and come hang out with me, man. I appreciate Marty, hanging out.
The most famous person I know, I think.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna
my third best friend now, so just know that.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, welcome. I want to talk cryptids. I'm definitely down.
Yeah, we gotta all do
I hope you enjoy the show, and listen, I'd be happy to have you on Garden Views to talk about your experience in the entertainment world and entertainment contracts in the music business, because that's part of
absolutely.
Yeah, so you're welcome on anytime. I would love to. So you know where to hit me up, and if I won't bother you, but if you contact me, we'll make it happen.
Always.
Excellent. Round of applause for Dose, everyone. Thanks so much, Dose, for tapping. Till we speak again. So Marty, we're going through this press conference here. Overall Dynasty, how were you feeling about it? Like, how did you leave the pay-per-view feeling after it was done?
Okay, so as I think we spoke before, the AEW pay-per-views a lot easier to get through from start to finish. For me, and I know the people who hate listen are gonna have a bunch of shit to say in my mentions. If you only knew, but for me, Dynamite is really hard to get through a whole listen, or like a whole watch through in one sitting. It usually takes me a couple days. Like I start half and then I finish the other half, and then like I always want to watch it to be informed. So when it gets to the pay-per-views, I can get through those. It kind of was reminiscent of Mania before it was 2 days. So where it's like it feels like it's 8-9 hours and you're just sitting there. The pacing for me was typical. Every match was like on speed, so there was no breathing room. So I found myself like, okay, I'm watching a match and I'm like into it, and then the next match I'm like tired, and it was like, to me it felt like it was reflecting in the crowd, like, oh god, okay, and then something would happen and people would wake up and then they'd be tired and they'd be up, and it's just there, like it was just so much. There weren't as many false finishes per match, which I loved because that was a criticism I had before, and I'm seeing improvement on that. I love that. There was only maybe like one match, maybe 2 matches that I didn't like, or I just had no interest, and I was just trying my hardest to kind of stick with. Did you get into the? I will say. Let's just piss some people off. Ospreay and Danielson was good.
Right on. Yeah, no,
I thought great. Close to great.
It wasn't the best match of all time. Like they're all trying to say, but it was like a 3 out of 5.
Greatest match of all time. It was 8 stars. It was no, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't that good. There were a lot of botches. Ospreay was no selling the fucking shit out of a lot of moves. Like he was just Hulk powering up, but I'm not even burying it. Like I liked it. It was a 3 out of 5. That's a really good fucking match in my book. But Dave's gonna give it 6 stars. Cody and WrestleMania sort of there. I don't know. I think Toni was like, and people were like, we all need to show our support of AEW and rally behind the company and the way the WWE guys are, blah blah blah. And this is just her way to do it in gimmick. So I just feel like you guys in gimmick, like I promise, like this is okay, and we shouldn't be mad at Toni Storm. She goes hard in the paint, and she even said it before, she's transcending, like she's living her gimmick almost. And I don't know, I appreciate this way more because this is some Mark fake fucking press conference anyways, where they don't ask real fucking questions. Really, or maybe they do. Maybe you can say 1 or 2 get asked, but it's these pro wrestling press conferences. It's like either it all has to be kayfabe or I'll shoot. It can't be a mix of it, and she's just kayfabing. So I appreciate what she's doing here. I ain't mad at all. Okay, you can't. If you're an e-drone, I'm sorry, but this doesn't diminish or take away. This is like, I don't know. If anything, it's just them talking more about WWE, which will turn people off. I get why it turns people off, but this isn't like taking what Triple H said on a podcast. She's referring to what happened at a WrestleMania and is talking about how she transcends the business. Fuck what everyone else is doing, even whatever the pinnacle of WWE was, people saying, WrestleMania 40 and that. So I don't know. I'm not triggered. Yeah, how do you see it?
Either.
On it? Like, tell me what you think. I could be totally off.
No, you're not off. You're not off. You're definitely not off. So here's where I am with this. In terms of what she's doing, the irony of it is, and what's completely funny is that she's doing a borderline WWE gimmick in AEW, and it's working.
Exactly.
It's working 1,000%, and I think she knows that too. She was more careful than Ospreay was by taking the shots. She takes shots at Wendy Richter and at the at the Bellas, the Garcia twins, and then doing that because that's probably going to happen. It was hilarious, but how that's going to happen. It's more tongue in cheek. It was a shot, but it was more tongue in cheek versus just trying to be fake edgy or corny and stupid the way Ospreay was doing it. And then when she was doing that, she knows that it's going to piss the IWC off. She knows that it's going to make tribalism enhance. Like, she's feeding the beast a little bit, but it's in a more tongue-in-cheek way. So I'm not taking it as much offense to it. My thing is why this gets over, because everybody there gets to come up with their own creative. It does make it a lot easier for Toni to have to come up with it, but then it also leads to chaos that we all usually see. And the issues with that is because at this point, they, like I said in the last pod, it's like the way that they treat this is just they treat it like it's just the scorned X in a sense. Like they'll never let it go. They're just never like they're gonna cling to it and hang on to it and never let it go. They cling kind of like the side chick that tells everybody in the world that like he says he's gonna leave his wife for me. He's gonna leave his wife for me. Like the cling to it, where it's like we have to take shots. As much shit as he gives Bischoff for certain things, I'm like, this guy is the closest. He's gotten legitimately the closest to doing the thing that you're trying to do, and at one point in time was the competition at the apex of the industry as a whole. But I feel like this is every scrum. Can you think of one scrum that they haven't had where it wasn't Toni Storm, it was MJF, it was somebody else, where they're always making a reference to either undermine or to take a shot at the other company. And after a while, it's just getting
that's MJF's whole gimmick.
Yeah, it's corny. It's corny though, because it's taking away from the legitimate work that she's doing. And it's like people aren't talking about the match. They're not talking about the other parts of the promo, the delivery, and like how amazing and like how she's talking her shit. It's awesome. She's doing great. She's one of the things that are the people that keep the product entertaining, especially like for me, especially. And it's just like, wow, all of this is going to get lost in the shuffle completely because they're using all these trigger words to piss people off. And you can look and tell she doesn't mean any of this shit. She's just in character. But the majority, like the owner and a lot of the other people in the company, they're saying this shit with their whole chest.
What?
I have a question about this, and this is going to lead to something else. I know people are going to get fucking triggered because it's just like, why are you making it about that? But I'm just saying, I'm going to give context. Jade, right? When Jade was there, they did everything to keep her away from the dentist, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so if Athena is got a 500 plus day reign as ROH Women's Champion, right? And those ROH belts, I'm saying this now for context. Those ROH belts, right? Like the trios belts and all the other stuff, all that shit gets defended, or they give it to Eddie Kingston, they give it to all these other people, right? They get all these shots. If rankings were a thing, right? Wouldn't the person on the other promotion, and we've well established that these titles in the other promotion get used as props and given to other people for story fodder. If we're talking about rankings, why are we not mentioning Athena? Why is nobody mentioning Athena and what she's doing? Because
bullshit, and they're not bringing up Athena. Like she's the biggest fumble, one of them, of the women's division in AEW, man. She's gotten over on Dark, Elevation, Ring of Honor, continuously gets over everywhere you put her.
But if Toni Storm was Ring of Honor champion, you don't think that she would get a shot?
Yeah, of course. And also, like, Athena's been the Ring of Honor champ for like almost 600 days, dude.
That's what I'm saying. So, but I'm saying if Toni Storm or Britt Baker, insert whomever, was Ring of Honor champion, would they not get a shot? Because rankings don't mean shit, right?
Yeah.
But what they're going to do is they're going to feed her Sky Blue or Julia Hart or whoever the fuck they're going to feed to her.
Down there now, it's like Sheeta and Athena are duking it out. It's bullshit, man. Honestly, like there's some Toni, I swear, just signed Athena and just instantly was like, I'm not.
But I'm supposed to believe that Swerve is champion and things are going to change and they're supposed to do this. But when you do that, you're going to set somebody up to be a transitional champion. You did it with Joe, and then you fumbled it with Jade, because you did everything to keep her away. And I'm just noticing, and read between the lines, people. Read between the fucking lines. If Toni Storm or Britt Baker or whomever, Julia Hart, whom the fuck ever, had a 500 plus day reign as champion, and you've already shown that ROH titles can get on the main show and be used as story fodder, Why is it that they would get a shot, but nobody talks about Athena, and they're going to keep her as far away from Toni Storm as fucking possible?
Tony Khan is just fucking. He just doesn't want her to get over, unless it's Mike. Unless it's like it's.
If you're not Japanese, if you're not a Japanese woman from the UK, or you got freshly plucked from a New Japan roster, they do not fucking care. You want to know another reason why we don't believe that this Swerve thing is going to amount to shit? Because clearly, I mean, Swerve got a shot. Why can't Athena get a shot? I mean, you're supposed, you have a person of color as your champion. You have two people of color as champion. You know, she was. I would think that her reign. I'm not sure. I can't remember if there's another, at least off the top of my head at the current moment, I can't remember another African American women's ROH champion. But even then, that happened. Didn't hear much about that. That wasn't celebrated. I mean, you're basically hiding her in the back room of ROH. You know what? Practice what you preach now, because you just made him champion. Why doesn't Athena get a shot? Athena should get a shot at Toni Storm next.
Yeah, I could.
We know you're not going to let her win, but are they going to do it?
Round of applause, everyone. Two-time Grammy Award winner. He had to get out of here. I had something to do, so we had a little Frankenstein stitch cut up. But here is the. Let's continue along here. So Toni Storm, storms out. Pun intended. And here's Will Ospreay, who comes out and basically talks about, he apologizes for hurting Danielson. He apologizes for the Triple H thing. And Bruv says he's better than all these people, mate. So I don't know. I said it before. If you're the best, you don't really got to talk about it all that much. So Tony Khan, I like that. I'm never going to be mad at the short and sweetness. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another eclectic edition of PWT Podcast. I just want to thank you all, man. The channels are growing greatly. Everything's going really well. I'm bringing you guys more and more content. I'm sure you're aware, it's like every single day I try and upload or go live or something. Wednesday night, which you'll probably be listening to this on a Wednesday. So tonight, Time Cop. Yeah, it's a great movie. So Time Cop, Wednesday night, tune in. I'm going to do a live show. It might not be games again. So Wednesdays are going to be live shows / games, depending on if I want to game out or not. But I have like a babillion Phil Marks bookmarks and a babillion Dave Meltzer dumb moments and a bunch of news that I'm not going to get on this episode because I tried to fit Marty on. I really wanted his take on the Swerve stuff, and I really wanted Dose's take on the TV deal stuff because it is getting crunch time. April, May, June is when it's coming down to it, and I'm a little weaselly smart, so I want to know that stuff. So round of applause to the guests today, even though they didn't stick around the whole time. They dropped bombs on us and gems. And man, I'm Phil Marks. You guys are the Top Pod listeners. Make sure you check me out at Pro Wrestle Times. Make sure you become a member to the channel. I'm trying to be here for you guys more and more. And so become a member on either channel, and it's all the same shit. You get everything's the exact same. But yeah, just consider that. And then members only shows are going to come eventually. But I didn't shout out the Tribal Chiefs at the start of the show because I wanted to jump right into it because I had Dose for a limited time. So the Tribal Chiefs: Gilgamesh, Rouse J, 1199, Sal Dosri, Kyle Mulkey, Joseph Morales, Derek Hance, Liam McBlain, Cruz Madrid, Sask Prophet, Ninja Boy, Savage Wrestling Podcast, and y'all are the Tribal Chiefs. We acknowledge you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have been Phil Marks. At Pro Wrestle Times, at Pro Wrestle Clips. You have been the Top Pod listeners. Thank you so much. And I'll catch you all on the live show. Make sure you're there.